6 years ago, my next guest worked as a nurse. That was until she injured her back in the gym, and the time off work led her to start to evaluate about whether or not she was on the right path in her life. Was her ongoing low mood and increasing anxiety something she needed to live with, or was it time to make a change? Katie Ball does not do things by halves. She made the dramatic decision to leave her job as a nurse, and even though she'd only been a casual gym goer up to this point, decided to move into the health and fitness industry full time. Determined to level up mentally, emotionally, and physically through strength training, Katie's gone on to win England's Strongest Woman twice and won several awards. Katie is literally changing the face of strength training for women, advocating it not only for weight loss and competition, but as a way for women to find their highest self. I'm so excited to have Katie on the podcast today to talk about the huge pivot in her life and the huge change in career, and to debunk some of the myths around strength training, as many women feel that this is for bodybuilders or for men, and that if they partake in this kind of training, that they're going to have these big, horrible, muscly bodies. And I can attest to the fact, having trained with Katie and doing this kind of training for a long time, that I have actually got into the best shape of my life and been in the best mental headspace. So thank you so much for being on the show, on the podcast, on the episode, whatever.
Thanks for having
Katie,
me.
It's so lovely to have you here today.
Thank you.
So you and I have known each other for a long time, but we met, obviously, when you'd already moved into the fitness industry, and actually you trained me right at the beginning. I mean, how do you go from completely changing career? Because you were a nurse, which is a very different profession to this. And I've been in a similar space in my life where I've made career changes. And if I think back to that time, it was the scariest time of my life because you work so hard and, you know, you've been to school and college and uni and done all these things. And then you have this path laid out for you. And then you get those feelings, don't you, of, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Like, do I want to be in this space forever? But being in the middle of all that, where you actually have to make that leap of faith and make that decision to completely change direction in life, I want to talk a bit about that because there are so many people that are going through this now. So what did you go through? How did you navigate through it? And what ultimately gave you the courage to make the decision?
So, as you said before, Henna, unfortunately, I suffered a random back injury. Yes, I was in the gym environment, but I was simply warming up for a training session. I was hanging from one of the racks in the gym, just stretching my body out. Just let go, drop down to land. And then all of a sudden, bang, I felt like I'd been shot in the back and I had this horrendous back pain. Long story short, had to take time off work, had to leave nursing for a short while to get myself better, to get myself out of pain. It wasn't appropriate for me to be working in the level of pain I was at. And then from that, I think up until that point, actually, I was umming and ahhing whether nursing was the right profession for me. Now, you know, I think a lot of people thought I was a little bit mad in a way because, oh, nursing, what a fantastic career. You know, you can go far. There's lots of different avenues you can go into.
Yeah.
But when I really thought long and hard about it, there was just something that wasn't sitting right for me. And although there were aspects of the job that I loved, you know, caring for people, in very hard times, not only sort of physical health, mental health as well, looking after them.
Yeah.
You know, working in intensive care was a very, very intense job, very stressful.
So basically, so you're full in the throes of it, and being a nurse on an intensive care ward is pretty mentally and physically demanding on you. But that's a very dedicated profession.
Yeah.
So you're in this space. You know that something has to change.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got an interest in the health and fitness industry. But what was it actually like mentally going through that whole process of thinking, God, I'm going to make a big career change here? Like, what feelings did you experience? You know, was it panic? Was it uncertainty? Or were you completely confident that you were doing the right thing?
I think ultimately I was feeling very unfulfilled in nursing for whatever reason. And then being injured, taking time at home by myself, just actually forced me to reevaluate where I was at in life and what I wanted to do. Yeah. And somebody gave me a very, very good piece of advice, actually, and posed this question to me. It was, what's worse for you now, the fear of change or the fear of feeling the way that you're feeling in the next year? And that question was just like, wow, okay, I can answer that straight away.
Yeah.
For me, being in the same situation, having the same feelings, the same stress levels, the same level of unfulfillment in a year's time was like, absolutely not. I
Can't
have
do
to do,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have to do something about it. And although, you know, changing careers, that security of being employed, knowing what I'm doing,
Yeah.
a degree, a degree in nursing, very experienced, to going in a completely new industry, becoming self-employed where there's no sort of privileges for, you know, maternity leave and pensions and different things like that. And knowing as well that getting up to a level in nursing, starting in a new industry.
Going right back to the beginning.
Yes.
That's hard.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, you know, okay, swallow your pride, swallow any ego that you've got of where you think you've been before in the past in this line of career. You are starting from day dot, and you're just going to have to work hard.
I love that. Yeah, because you have to swallow your ego. And you can, like, if I want to get really good at this, and I have to humble myself and just accept the fact I'm right at the beginning. I mean, so that's the beginning. And, you know, what you've gone on to do is just absolutely incredible. Because, you know, people have this perception that if you're like England's strongest woman, you've got to be this big, I would have think of this big butch woman. But you're slight, you're in really good shape, but you have unbelievable strength, right? So just talk me through, first of all, what made you decide to actually even apply for the competition? Because that's pretty heavy. Like, that's a massive challenge for you to set for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think always being a sportswoman, so from the age of 4, I played hockey. Played hockey. I've always had that competitive element in my life. And I think committing to a career in nursing at first meant I'm an all-in kind of girl, okay? I went into my nursing degree. I studied hard. I worked part-time. I volunteered, maintained a long-term relationship, all of that business. All of me was dedicated to that.
Yeah.
There was no time for me to continue to play hockey at the level that I was playing at the time. Okay, and that's, again, just something that I had to accept for now, put on the back burner. But as I sort of went on, and I was training in the gym, I was keeping myself fit, there was just, like, again, a little bit of something missing for me. And I was thinking, you know, what is it? And I was thinking back, and there's just that competitive edge just wasn't there. And I'm not an aggressively competitive person, but I like to be pushing myself. I like to know that I'm improving, and I like to know that anything that I'm doing has a purpose, really. Yeah. So that was the challenge to me. The other thing was coming from team sport and being sort of, I would consider myself a bit more of someone who's a bit fitter, a bit more endurance based. I didn't actually think that I was built to be strong.
Right.
I was like, oh, I've got long legs, I've got long arms. I'm not going to be very good at lifting heavy. But there was something that was like, just go and have a go, push yourself, do something new, see what you can do, and then prove myself wrong. Clearly, prove myself wrong. Stuck at it, trained for it. Approached a coach that had done something similar. He was a strongman competitor to do my training programming for me, and then I trained for my first novice competition, and that was the goal.
Yeah, and you smashed it.
Yes.
So you've taken on strength training, which is actually a lot of women shy away from. Mm-hmm. You know, I know a lot of women who train, and the initial sort of impulse tends to be to go navigate towards what we know, cardio and, you know, HIIT training, and that kind of stuff is great for fitness levels. But having done both types of training, I've never had better results than when I've done strength training. But what do you think one of the biggest barriers is to women going into a gym and picking up weights?
I think there's multiple barriers to it, actually. I think, personally think it's a confidence thing. I really, really do think it's a confidence thing. Whether it's thinking that they don't belong there for whatever reason, whether they think it's a man's place, whether they think it's intimidating. Another reason is thinking that actually not understanding what to do in the weights room, I think, is a really, really big thing for people, because I think applying effort to running or HIIT training, you know, jumping about or sprinting, working hard is actually, most people could do that to a certain extent, okay? There's not very much skill or technique involved, okay? But when it comes to the weights room, when you're lifting dumbbells, there's fancy machines, there's cables, there's things hanging up. I can imagine it can be a very, very daunting place for people. And people are also frightened to get injured. So not knowing what to do, I think, is also a very big barrier, and not wanting to look stupid.
Yeah. So if there are women out there that want to, I don't know, get more fit, get more healthy, I want to talk about some of the real physical benefits beyond aesthetics of doing strength training, because I was really surprised to learn that strength training can actually help with like bone density and improving that, which actually is a huge physical benefit to this type of training. So from your very expert opinion, if there's women listening in today, what advice would you give them to sort of steer them more down this path of doing this type of training from a physical point of view?
So from a physical point of view, strength training is going to be amazing for injury prevention. Okay, and as you mentioned in terms of bone density, so coming from the NHS, coming from a nursing background, as people get older, and more specifically women get older, they can be more prone to getting osteoporosis, okay? And then they can be more prone then to falling, getting fractures and things like that. And then they then live a lesser quality of life because of those things that have happened to them. They get a little bit weaker, they get an injury, they don't quite bounce back as strong. Lifting weight, putting your body under load, putting your body under an appropriate stress over time, consistently over time, is going to help women maintain bone density. It's going to strengthen ligaments and joints. It's going to help us to maintain lean muscle mass as well, which is important for strength, overall health, metabolism at the same time.
Yeah. And as well as obviously the physical benefits, because if you're combining strength training with, a relatively well-monitored diet, there is the physical and aesthetic results that you can gain from that are actually unbelievable. So I think it's more about moving past the psychological fear of, I've never done this before, to actually facilitating or finding a way that you can do it, which is relatively easier. So, not everyone necessarily wants to go out and get a PT or someone to sort of take them through physical sessions. But if you're joining a gym, for example, it's quite easy to get an initial session, isn't it, from someone that can show you how to use weights and then build up a program for yourself and then incorporate that into different things. Moving to your sort of training for strong women, what kind of things did you have to do, and what would you say was one of the most mentally challenging times for you during your training?
So, strong woman it's being strong, but it's also dealing with difficult challenges and difficult objects within a competition. Okay, so it's not just, for example, if we look at common strength training exercises in the gym, a deadlift, a squat, a shoulder press with dumbbells or a barbell. When you're doing strong woman, the competitions, they're fierce, they're tough. You're expected to do something that you've never ever done before. Right. So you might be deadlifting a car. You might be picking up an Atlas stone, a big concrete stone that can weigh 60, 70, 90, 100, 110 kilograms. You could be pulling a truck, pushing a truck. You could be picking up a monster dumbbell. I'm talking a big, massive dumbbell that weighs 30, 40 kilos. You're expected to get it from the floor over your head, okay?
Wow.
As well as being able to pick up a log, which is very, very long cylindrical object. Again, pick it up from the floor and put it over your head. So it's very, very technical at the same time. And it's not just lifting something maximally once. You could be expected to lift these things multiple times. You could be expected to carry something for as long as you can possibly carry it. One of the most disgusting things I've done in the competition is carry. I think it was my body weight in the competition. So last year I competed in the under 75 kilos. So it was a 75 kilo sandbag for as long in distance as you possibly could.
So how far did you get?
I actually don't know the distance, but I think I was carrying it for around somewhere between 3 to 4 minutes.
What does that feel like, carrying your body weight? What goes? I'm interested. Do you kind of zone out mentally? Are you so focused, or do you literally feel the pain second by second, or is it a mental game?
It's both. You're feeling the pain, and I just convince myself that it's not getting any worse. That
Right.
it's there. It's there. You can cope with it. You can carry it. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. And then it's just mentally hanging on till that point where you mechanically break down.
Yeah, your body's
your
like,
muscle. So what's going to break first? Is it your mind?
Right.
Because you can actually see that on the competition floor. You can see in people when
Can
it's
you? Is that how you like kind of get into, like, can you suss your opponents out?
Yeah,
do you get to know them? Do you get to know them?
Yes, yeah, we do. I've been fortunate enough to compete with some absolutely strong,
Powerhouses,
fantastic,
and I've seen pictures of them.
just amazing women that I'm still friends with today, which is another amazing thing of this sport.
Yeah.
Okay, and getting stronger and getting in the gym and doing something, you meet other people that can be lifelong friends, which is amazing. But yeah, it's always going to be a battle of body or mind, which one's going to break first.
And when you typically do these things in competitions, are you sort of like, are you facing off somebody, or is it so are you going against somebody to increase that sort of element of competition?
Yeah, sometimes. So for example, more than likely, if you're doing something, say, for repetition, so you're given a duration of time, 60 seconds, 75 seconds, say we're pressing something overhead, you can be physically watching somebody in front of you, so you're going head to head with it. If you're doing like a max lift event, not so much. You're there on your own in the middle of the floor, everybody's watching you do that one grand effort. And then, for example, some like sometimes the carrying movements, like the farmer's carry, where you've got two heavy frames in your hands, or the sandbag, you can be going against somebody, but more often than not, you are actually out there on your own, which is, that presents itself with another challenge as well, because it's literally you versus you when you're out there.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it. I'm just like, just go out there, leave everything out there, and just perform the best you possibly can in that moment. And that's all I would ask of myself.
Yeah. I mean, from a mental perspective, then it's a pretty unbelievable endorphin rush, isn't it? To really sort of see how far you can push yourself past probably the limits of your own physical capabilities. And that's where I think actually the mind is such a powerful thing. We don't actually realize how much influence our mind has over us. Completely unrelated, I recently did. I don't know if you've ever done a sweat lodge.
Go on.
So in a nutshell, you are literally, it's on bare earth, and there's a big sort of hole dug out in the middle, and it's filled with hot rocks that are heated on a fire for over a number of hours. And so you crawl into this enclosed space, normally with, 5 or 6 other people. So you're literally quite packed together. It's a circular thing. They tend to do it in South America quite a lot. And then the whole structure is covered with like tarpaulin, or it's completely enclosed, completely sealed. So air can't get in really. And it's completely dark. And you do it for a series of 5 rounds. And, it's quite a spiritual practice, but actually, that's why I did it. So I sat in it. First round, I'm like, everyone's crying about this. It's like easy. It's just a bit like a sauna. First round, fine. Second round, I was like, oh God, it's starting to get a bit hot in here, because what they do is they throw water on the stones to really increase the level of heat. So it was actually 4 rounds. Got to round 3, and as we're getting to the end of round 3, I literally thought, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna have a panic attack. Like I really wanted to crawl out, so I had to wait for them to finish the chanting and open the. And I literally ran out with about 4, crawled out with about 4 other people. And I remember lying on the cold floor, looking at the sky and thinking, I have to go back in, because it's only 1 more round to go. And I need to prove to myself mentally that I can go in there and do it. And so I did. I ended up crawling back in. And I remember, I don't know how I got through the 4 minutes, because it's the hottest thing I've ever been in my life. That, like, I was dying. I think I was scratching the ground of the floor. I don't know why I was murmuring to myself. I was a complete wreck. But I remember doing that, and the mental exhilaration I felt. So, and what that whole experience really taught me is that the quality of my life and my capability to do things 100% is dependent on what I think I am capable of doing. And it proved to me that I can push myself beyond my physical limits. And I'm not likening it all to winning England's Strongest Woman. It isn't. But I have so much admiration and respect for that. Through everything that you've gone through then, with winning the competitions and navigating that, do you think it's made you a mentally stronger person?
Yeah, absolutely. It's taught me so many lessons, and I think fundamentally it's one of the reasons that I actually do it. It's not for trophies, it's not for medals, it's like, what can I personally get out of this? Can I be stronger? Can I be better than I've ever been before? And I've always had this sort of pursuit of trying to reach my potential in some way, in something, because I don't want to get to the point where I look back and I think, like, you didn't even try, you didn't even explore. And that's like something that's very, very important to me. But I think it's just, it constantly asks you questions about yourself, and I think that's the beauty of it. Can you do more? Like, are you willing to have a go? Are you willing to at least try and put yourself out there?
What's the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself then? That surprised you?
Yeah.
About yourself?
That surprised me about myself?
Yeah.
I'm able to be better than I once thought I could be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because you have limitations in your own mind, don't you?
Yeah. And actually, I went around for a while thinking, as I just said to you about this thing about, reaching your potential, and you probably have these like, not yet, probably are limits in mind in terms of, I think I could, I think I could deadlift that, or I think I could do that, push that over my head. And then actually reflecting back on some of my competitions, like last year, for example, if I deadlift 140 kilos for 10 reps, that's brilliant. Okay.
That's like 3.5 times my body weight.
And
that is pretty unbelievable, dude.
And then for some reason, throughout training and on the run up to competition, I had this 10 in my head, because I would be overreaching getting this 10, because in training, I think maybe I'd got 6 or 7.
Okay.
I was like, I can get 10.
Yeah.
And then it got to competition day, and then I got 10, which was fantastic.
Wow.
But then if I reflect back, I'm like, well, did you actually limit yourself there? Because all the time in your mind, you were saying that you wanted 10 and you could get 10. Don't get me wrong, that is a fantastic achievement. But then it made me question, have I gone into that with 10 as the magic number? And then I've got that 10.
But you've limited yourself.
Yeah.
As in you could have got more.
Yeah, but I don't know. But it's just, these are things I often think about when I reflect back on competitions and think, could you have done more? Even when you've done amazing, you always, I'm the type of person, I'm just always going to say, could you have done more? Could you have done better?
Is that a critical voice, or is that more kind of a, there's always something to improve?
Yeah, I think it's a curiosity, actually. I'd say way back, it might be a criticism, like a long, long time ago. It might be a little criticism of myself, but now it's a bit more, it is definitely more curiosity now, because I never, ever now would beat myself up for something, because as long as I know that I have given my best in that moment, and that's all you can ever ask of yourself at that time, then I'm at peace with my performance.
Yeah. I mean, you must be so proud of yourself with everything that you've achieved. I mean, it is pretty spectacular, and your life has obviously dramatically changed. When you kind of look back over the last few years, apart from winning England's Strongest Woman twice, what do you think has been your personal proudest achievement? Because I know that winning awards doesn't motivate you. So what would you say was your proudest moment, or has been your proudest moment?
Do you mean related to competitions, or?
I mean generally. So you look back and you think, God, I was a nurse 6 years ago. Now I'm doing this. I've completely changed my life. What part of that process do you feel the proudest about? Is it making the decision to make a career change? Is it the stuff that you've done? I'm just really curious, and the reason why I ask the question is because we can get so committed to the path of doing and achieving and getting to the next thing. How often do we actually look back and think, God, I've done some pretty amazing things, And at what point in that journey do you look back and go, God, that was such a significant moment, and I'm so proud of myself that I made that decision.
I can totally agree with you, because I am 100% always on to the next thing. Like, when's the next competition? How much more weight can I lift on the bar next week or the week after or tomorrow? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's good to want to push yourself and to seek that improvement, so that you're just open to possibilities. But then at the same time, if you just let those moments pass you by, then you just get caught on this wheel of forever trying to improve or get better all the time. And then you're probably never very satisfied. So I think it is so important, as you've said, to just take stock of what you have achieved. So I think for me, my proudest moment is actually being where I am now, because I have come so far from being a nurse, completely changing my life, changing my career, to now being a businesswoman, doing well in the health and fitness industry, and being in a position where I can help other women just get even closer to feeling some sort of potential their self. And that's ultimately why I came into what I was doing, is to help other people just be less limited by what they think they can or what they think they can't do, and just show them to have a go and show up.
Because you train a lot of women, and what would you say are some of the key issues that come across in, that you've kind of had to navigate through or help women navigate through? Because I'm just curious, because I think so many people that are sort of tuning into this podcast will be able to resonate with a lot of these. So I think it'd be good to sort of talk about them and sort of work around them and sort of see what you've done with your clients, that somebody listening into this podcast might be able to take away and think, I could do that.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest limiting factors for women in the weight room is self-belief, like 100%, because obviously personal training a lot of women, work very closely with them one-to-one, week in, week out, in the gym, session by session. And I can sometimes even tell by the body language, say we're going into a set on squats, I can see in their expression, or they'll start to shake their head because for whatever reason, they just don't think that they can do it.
Yeah. I have that thing with squats. Hate them.
Yeah.
Don't want to do them. Well, do anything I can to avoid them.
And it could be, it could be something.
It scares me, I think.
Yeah.
That physical, it's really interesting. I don't mind dumbbells and doing free weights. I feel really comfortable with those. I think because there's this sort of psychological perception in my head that I can control the weight. So for me, when I have a bar on my back and I feel very, very vulnerable, with the level of weight, and then sort of, so I think that for me, it's a mental struggle.
Yeah. And I find that actually, when it comes to coaching people one-to-one in the gym, that actually a huge part of my role is showing them that they can do something. It's not just showing them how to move, it's being there with them in the set. And when they want to give up, because I can tell somebody's intensity, what level they're working at, for if I've been working with them for a while. And it's just week in, week out, just showing them they can do a bit more, And not only on the leg press, but when they're doing something else in the gym, because they have that self-doubt there in the moment. But then within my role, if I show them they can just do a bit more than they think they can, then weeks down the line, that self-doubt just starts to kind of drift away, because it's like practice, isn't it? It's like reps. It's reps for your mind as well as physical reps in the gym. It's proving yourself wrong when you think you can't, which I think is a really important, really, really important thing.
And you talk a lot about consistency, because there's no point going half a leather for 4 weeks and just going and doing cardio every day and thinking you're going to get results. I mean, the kind of training that you're doing, which is actually so amazing for long-term mental health benefits and physical benefits, it is about being consistent and on point, isn't it? And doing it regularly and building it up and being really committed. In terms of that, how many times a week would you advocate training as a minimum to get results?
3 to 4. I think 3 to 4 is a
And
fair
how long
amount.
do you need to spend in the gym, honestly? Because I personally don't want to spend longer than 45 minutes.
40 to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And nobody really needs to be doing any longer than that. I think what we really should be focusing on is the quality of the time we're spending in the gym, not doing, you may have heard the term junk volume. So it's just going in the gym, throwing a load of weights around with no intensity, with not really very much thought. It's being there in the moment, training hard, training with intensity, and doing that 3 to 4 times a week. Say even if you did it for 30 to 40 minutes, is going to trump doing junk every day of the week, because ultimately we know we need rest and recovery outside of the weight room to get those adaptations that we want to grow stronger, to build our muscle mass.
So training's an important part, but an even more important part, particularly with regards to body composition. And let's be honest, a lot of people do train, not only to get stronger and to feel better, but they want to train for aesthetics. So food and diet is such an important part of that. I fall into the camp of I just don't eat enough. And interestingly for me, it's only when I start training then do I have more accountability, with my food. So, it's obvious that, you need to consume a certain amount of protein and have a good balance of fats and carbs. But, there's so many myths to debunk, because this perception that, I can't eat avocado, or I can't eat all those things. But actually having a good mixture of all of that stuff is really, really important. So what kind of food choices should people be making to support what they're doing in terms of their training? And what food choices should women in particular be making to help with, like you and I have talked in the past about hormonal issues and, things like PMT. I can suffer from PMT quite badly. And you gave me some phenomenal advice. I didn't realize, that actually I need to be having in omega-3, a really good quality omega-3. So you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago. I've incorporated it into my diet on the daily. And I have to be honest, I feel significantly better. I know these things take a while to kick in. So what key elements should women be taking for overall health to support a fitness regime?
I think it's always going to come down to the quality of what we're eating, because eat crap, feel crap. It's as simple as that. And I think we can all attest to that. Say we've had a day or a weekend where we've just eaten what we consider junk, or we've eaten poorer quality food. We're not going to feel great on a Monday morning. We're probably going to feel sluggish. We're probably going to have problems with our digestion. We're probably just not going to feel great with ourselves. But say we eat good quality food, minimally processed, 3 to 4 days, we're going to be flying. We're going to be feeling good. We're going to be feeling fantastic. But ultimately, it's finding out what you like, what you enjoy. What works for you, your schedule, your routines. There's not anything that people should and shouldn't be eating. It depends on the person and it depends on their goal, really. Obviously, there's a lot of myths out there around protein, and I was having a conversation just in the hairdressers yesterday actually about somebody
protein.
saying
what was it?
but it's cool because more and more women are asking questions about that, which is fantastic. The only thing that upsets me is they go open Google blah 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 protein, or how do I lose fat in 3 seconds, whatever they want to put in there. But the particular person was saying that, I'm scared I'm eating too much protein. I'm scared there's a real fear behind eating too much protein. It's going to hurt my kidneys. And it's like, no, this is a myth that is out there. If you are moderately eating protein 3 to 4 times a day with your main meals, including an extra snack during the day, you're going to be absolutely fine. But I think protein gets such a bad rap, and I think it just comes from these images of guys slamming protein shakes down and stuff like that and getting absolutely huge and massive. There's that. I think there's that side sometimes from women that if I am increasing my protein intake, I'm going to get huge. Well, no, you're not. Your skin, your hair, your nails are going to look fantastic. You're going to have less PMT issues as well. It's fundamental. Protein plays a huge part in every cell in the body. So it's very, very important. Yeah.
People have this perception, don't they, that a protein shake is like some like, one of these calorific. I actually, for me, it's if I'm anxious or I physically can't stomach eating a meal, my go-to is a protein shake, because I know then I'm getting protein into my body, it's fuel, and I know that that's maintaining a certain level of muscle mass or whatever it is. And actually it's a really good way to stave off those I call them emergency hunger pangs, where you're like, oh, you suddenly gets to 1 o'clock and you feel sick.
Hanger.
Yeah, hunger, and then you go and then you get going for the brownie or the cake or whatever. Not that that's a bad thing, it's not. And what I love, because you've done a training program for me, remember when Katie and I chatted about it, and I was like, I want Cocoa Pops after a train. I want to make sure I've got a snack. I want to make sure I've got all these things. And so again, this is a myth. There's this perception that if I'm working out, I need to eat salad and protein, and I can't eat anything. Absolute rubbish, isn't it? It's about what your goal is.
Yeah.
Of course, at some point, if you're going to be getting lean, you're going to have to cut things out. But I don't think I've ever, in my whole entire life training, have ever had to cut out snacks or things that I enjoy, because there's always ways around things. When you were training for Strong Woman, though, did you have to seriously increase your uptake of food?
Yeah, well, yes and no. So I had to find the sweet spot of fueling performance whilst making weight, because I competed in a weight category. So when I won England's Strongest Woman twice, I was competing in the under 65 kilogram weight class.
What's your normal body weight?
68 to 69. So I would walk around. Yeah, I would walk around, maintaining that body weight, fueling performance. And then the closer I kind of got to competition, I'd have to be a little bit more aware and a little bit more strategic as to what I was doing with my nutrition, because if you get there on competition day, you stand on the scales and you're 65.1, you ain't competing. No.
You're beaten off, aren't you?
After 8, 10, 12 weeks of sort of a very intense, hard training program, you don't want to let yourself down.
Has that ever happened? Not to you, but to other people on competition?
Yeah.
But do you not pre-weigh? This is what I've never understood. Don't you pre-weigh yourself before you go?
Well, yeah. Obviously, there's always going to be a slight discrepancy between scales,
right?
Because they're not all going to weigh you the same, depending on calibration and stuff like that. So, I could weigh in the morning on my scales at home and then actually weigh in lighter at competition, or weigh in slightly heavier at competition. So you always want to leave yourself with a little bit of a cushion, really, just in case, because there's times people, they've shown up, and it can be easily done. Say if you're very, very close to that weight bracket and you weighed in 100 grams under your weight category, and then you weigh in over. There's people that have either not been able to compete it, or they've been running around the car park in a bin bag
sweating it out.
I shouldn't laugh, but I just got a really funny image of somebody running
doing
that car park.
Really?
Yeah, just trying to sweat a little bit out.
Did it work?
No, because the challenges with these competitions is that it's usually 2-hour weigh-in to compete. So that's the other thing that has to be carefully managed, because you don't want to be so depleted that you don't have enough time to sort of fuel yourself up again, get some carbohydrates, hydration, electrolytes back on board, so that you're able to perform. Because again, you're not gonna perform.
So weigh-in is 2 hours before competition?
In a lot of the competition I've done, sometimes you can do. Sometimes it's 24 hours. Oh, wow. Sometimes it's the day before. So you could literally just, if you needed to deplete yourself a lot, obviously in a healthy, safe way, you could do that. And then you've got a whole day to then just rehydrate, get your carbohydrates and your fuel on board that you need to compete at your best.
You're saying the dirty word carbohydrates. That's another thing, isn't it? People are so scared of carbs. I love a good carb.
I know, they're fantastic. The
best thing I ever learned, I hope this still stands or I look silly, is that eating carbs before bed is genius, because it actually, what does it do? Does it spike insulin?
It helps to release specific neurotransmitters in the brain.
Let's talk about that, because I always have, before bed, a full-on bagel, sometimes with a bit of banana and almond butter, and I sleep.
Yeah.
I sleep. And I'm a magnesium, but I sleep so well. But so tell me what is so good about having carbs before bed, because people tend to get the carbs in early doors with the porridge and stuff in the morning. And what I found really surprising when I started training was that actually I was getting more of my protein in during the day and then really carbing up at night.
And again, that works for you because it helps you to manage your nutrition during the day, and then it helps you get a good night's sleep. So have you ever spoken, or have you ever experienced or spoken to those people? I know I did as well. When I used to work in an office, I'd have probably an insane amount of carbohydrates at lunchtime before I really knew what nutrition was or had an understanding.
Yeah.
And then I'd be literally struggling to keep my eyes open in the afternoon. And it's quite a common thing that...
Listen, I've heard about those nurses' cupboards. They're deadly.
Oh, not on the
Chocolates,
ward.
bagels, donuts. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
It's full on, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's human nature to show kindness with food, isn't it?
Yeah.
So people would always, visit the ward, show the gratitude with chocolates and biscuits and things like that, because people are working hard and they need to eat. But using carbohydrates before bedtime, like an appropriate amount for your goal, it just helps to release those more sort of relaxing neurotransmitters in the brain to help people get off to sleep a little bit more. Like, it's not going to be a magic cure if you had a coffee 2 hours before and you're like on your work emails like this, but as part of kind of a very, very good wind down evening routine, then it's going to work really well for some people. So instead of getting sleepy in the afternoon from a lunchtime carb bomb, they're going to use that to help them feel a little bit more rested and sort of sleepy in the evenings before bedtime.
And so the other mistake I've made is eating, again, this maybe it's just my body, but eating too late and too close to bedtime, because I found that actually really disrupts my sleep. It keeps my heart rate too elevated, which means that I actually don't get enough deep sleep. So I see that you've got one on too, so I have an Aura ring. And that's been really great to help track the quality of sleep. And I was actually really shocked to see that the lack of deep sleep, which is obviously the restorative, the regenerative, that sort of really intense quality of sleep that we need for our, cell tissue repair and all that kind of stuff. I was getting such little of that. And I found that there's a correlation between eating too late. So let's say hypothetically I go to bed at 10. What should kind of be my shut-off window for when I'm eating my last big meal?
I'd say around 2 hours before.
Right.
Around 2 hours before. Just enough time for you to digest the food that you're having, for your stomach and your digestive system to go through those processes, and then for your heart rate to come down to a more rested level, as you've said. You've seen that in yourself, that when you eat a meal, typically your heart rate's going to go up a little bit, and your blood pressure, etc. as well at the same time. But yeah, I'd say about. But I think as well, it's just... Consistency is always going to be key. Like, it's making sure that having a wind down routine. People talk about morning routines a lot, don't they?
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to get up at 5. I'm going to have a cold shower. I'm going to throw a coffee over my head. I'm going to
do my affirmations. Do my list of gratitude.
Do my journal. Yeah. And then they have these fantastic sort of energizing get up and go routines before bed. When they get up in the morning.
Yeah.
But then they have just these super, super bad habits before bedtime.
Very true, actually.
But really what you should be doing is bookending either side of your day with some sort of routine and ritual, just to help you power up for the day in the morning, wind down for bed in the evening.
So what do you do then?
In the evening, before bed? Put my dressing gown on, get on the sofa. Obviously, I'm going to... If possible, it's not always possible to strictly time when you're having your evening meal and things like that. But I will probably around 2 hours before I go to bed have my last meal. I'll always make sure I've got a portion of carbohydrates in my last meal. I enjoy them. Carbs are great.
Yeah, carbs are great.
I watch a bit of TV actually in the evening to help myself wind down up to a certain point. Yeah, because that helps me to switch off. Love a good drama. Love a good drama. And then around half an hour before bed, I will go upstairs to the bedroom. I will read a book. I will put very low level lighting on. I will make sure that...
Is your phone off downstairs?
It's on aeroplane mode, yeah.
But in your bedroom?
Yes. I'm going to be honest, yes.
That's not the way, Katie. Mine is literally right there, surgically attached to my face, but that's another story. No. I'm never on airplane mode. I like put music on, meditation music, stupidly always on some Spotify playlist. Wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they've got some music blaring in my ear. Last night I was like, I need to stop this because this is not healthy. But I have this like weird anxiety about not having my phone close enough within reaching distance. But I've heard so many times, keep your phone downstairs.
Yeah.
And actually the times I've done that, I've not been as panicked about, what time is it? Or,
I mean, for me, I know as long as I've not got my face in my phone or a device 3 seconds before I go to bed, as long as I'm having space away from that, then I know in my experience that I'm going to be okay. A lot of people, I think,
Instagram scrolling at night, 45 minutes later, they're still there. They're like, oh my God, what am I doing? Sorry,
I mean, I
that's
can
me.
believe it.
Maybe
How
that's
lost
just
can
me.
you get in the reel on them reels?
I know, dude.
Anyway, I think that for a lot of people, it's sort of very challenging not to pick it up, and have it next to bedside, pick it up. So, best bet for people is if you do kind of struggle to put your phone down a lot,
put it on airplane mode.
Yeah,
like
or
that.
not having the rude. I just put mine on airplane mode because I can't really do anything with it if it's on airplane mode. So that's just my little hack for myself.
Yeah. I mean, no, but sleep is so important. People, I think, don't, or maybe they realise more now, but I've totally underestimated in my life how important sleep is. And what was really interesting for me was, well, again, maybe me, but lack of sleep raises cortisol. And, I have quite a stressful life anyway. I juggle, the businesses and the kids, and I love it all, but it is stressful. And so I tend to find that if I go through a long pattern of not sleeping very well, I tend to congregate body fat around my belly. And for the longest time, before I became wise and aware, I just thought that's where my body deposits fat. And actually, what's really interesting is, as I have regulated my sleep or manage it better, I've actually found that that's actually pretty much completely gone. Whereas I always just thought I was genetically predisposed to having more fat around my belly. And that's the thing about cortisol, isn't it?
It's stress it's stress management as a whole. And I think people fail to see as well that stress is stress, even if it's good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, training is a good stress, running a business, it's exciting, it's good, it's fun at times, but it's all stresses that have to be managed. It doesn't have to necessarily be a bad stress, like something's bad happened. Obviously, there's that as well. But it's the good stresses that also have to be managed at the same time, because it's, we've not evolved to have this chronic level of stress just flowing through our veins. We were, genetically, we are designed to deal with a single stress that comes at us. That's why your heart rate and your blood pressure will go up to deal with that.
Yeah.
Then it'll come back down. Stress is gone. But I think today we're just chronically stressed for a number of reasons. I know I am. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not stressed. But, running a business, relationships, life, it all adds into it. Training stress.
Yeah.
Even though training is good, choose to add it in. It's something that has to be managed at the same time as well.
Yeah. And a huge difficulty when your life is stressful is actually finding the time. Well, it's finding the time to train or to do things for yourself. And I know when I've been supremely stressed or haven't felt the best about myself, those are probably the times where I should have really accelerated my training and been much more dedicated to it. But that was one of the first things that completely fell off my priority list. And, and the bad thing about that is that's actually bad for my mental health, because it's such a good stress reliever. It's a way for me to actually get really good, rush of endorphins after I've done it. I feel so amazing after I've worked out. And then also I just eat better and I sleep better. So I think for lots of people tuning into this podcast, often times when you're stressed, you're highly anxious, and you're not motivated or driven to do these things, that's normally the absolute best time to go, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to force myself to do it, even if I'm just going to go into the gym or I'm going to do something for half an hour or whatever it is. If people don't like gyms, though, not everyone likes a gym. Like, what's really amazing about what you do is, and this has, definitely been, expanded over lockdown, the fact people couldn't go to gyms, is you offer, an amazing level of online training, don't you, where you can actually, you talk to people, you sort of navigate through their life and what they're going through, and then you build them a tailored program, which allows them to actually follow a complete training program, plus a nutritional plan, plus the opportunity to check in with you. So there's accountability.
Exactly.
'Cause that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And get really great monitored results without physically having to pay you for training sessions. Have you found that there's been a much bigger uptake for that over recent times?
Yeah, absolutely. I think particularly so, like during and post the pandemic as well, to be honest, because people were doing a lot more virtual sessions in their own homes. They were following things on YouTube and Also perhaps asking their trainers. I know some of my clients, I helped devise them some training programs that they could do at home with what they had. If it was just body weight, so be it, because at least they're moving, at least they're doing something that's going to make them feel good. It's for themselves. As you said, there's more benefits to physical activity than just getting leaner or just getting bigger or just getting stronger. It's stress management for people. It improves their mood. It's sort of developing a self-confidence and self-esteem at the same time. And I think that really gave people a taste for, perhaps there are certain things that I can do by myself, and perhaps it give them a bit of confidence and made perhaps people like myself a little bit more accessible to them, because I've got clients all over the world that work for me that I program their training, their nutrition and lifestyle and all of that for them. So it's great.
I think it's definitely opened up the fitness space for people above the conventional, go to a gym, sign up for a membership, etc. So one of the quotes that I love most that you always say is, not strong for a woman, just strong. And I love that, because there's no barriers, is there? Like, there's no barriers to what you're doing. But I think in any aspect of our lives, whether it's what you do, whether it's what I do, or what anyone else does, doesn't have to be fitness related. Would you agree that your capability and what you're able to achieve fundamentally comes down to what you mentally believe you're capable of achieving, and what level of, pain or persistence you're willing and able to push through in order to really reach those sort of unbelievable goals that you might secretly wish inside that you could achieve, but you don't necessarily feel you can?
Yeah, I think it becomes a habit, but in a good way, because I think it's quite unrealistic to expect that you can, when I first started out strength training, for me to say, I won't be able to do this, because I don't have evidence yet that I can, yet being the key word. Now, what I love about training and the weight room is every rep that you're doing, or every set that you're doing, is a tick in the box that you can. And that is a tick for the person that you want to be in the future, isn't it? Because
that is so powerful what you said. It's a tick in the box for the person that you want to be in the future. And it's your little proof and your tiny bit of evidence in that moment that actually you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think you just I'm not really sure how to word it.
Yeah.
It's, you've got to find, to do well, you've got to find, and to build that mindset, you have to find something where you can either prove yourself wrong that you can do something, or just prove that you can actually do something, because otherwise you're never really going to move forward from that. One of the biggest mindset changes for me in my whole life was, I'll keep this as short as I can, but I hope it will prove my point.
Yeah.
When I played hockey, I was very skillful, very good, could score goals, very tactically minded, but I was never the fastest girl. I was never the fittest girl.
Yeah.
And from a young age, I was like, I'm never going to be the fastest girl. I'm never going to be the fittest girl, but I've got these qualities, which is great. But for some reason, I never really believed that I could get good at those things. And then now when I think back to younger Katie, I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because now I know that was such a fixed mindset. But as a kid, as a little girl, I didn't really know those things were changeable. But as time has gone on and the more things I've tried to apply myself to, it's about having that growth mindset, isn't it? It's been open to possibilities. And the more things that I try, and I don't always get it right, but I try and build that little bit of evidence up for myself.
It makes you more brave, and once you venture out into the wilderness and the unknown, because it's a terrifying place, and you realise I've got a little bit of beaten up, but actually it's not been quite bad, and actually I've learned some really quite amazing things along the way. You become more brave, and then you do the next big thing, and people always say to me, oh my God, the stuff that you do is so brave. And I'm like, if you had any idea how nerve-wracking or how anxiety-ridden I was before taking the jump to do these things, even this podcast, I procrastinated on this podcast for years. If anyone had said to me years ago, what's your penultimate dream? What is it that you want to do? Apart from wanting to be Oprah Winfrey, let's just accept the fact she's my mentor in life. No, but I was terrified of doing this because I was terrified of putting myself in a space which was really out of my comfort zone, where I would be open to people's opinion, and I didn't know if I was going to be good at it, or and actually going through a really, really difficult time last year when I was probably at my lowest. See, this is something about my mindset. I've realized about me that it's normally when I'm at my lowest that I say to myself, okay, come on, Henna, this is time for you to level up and you've got to do something. And my go-to has become, do the thing that scares you the most, which seems scary. And doing that and pushing myself actually is what really changes things for me in my life and moves me past that really difficult moment. And so then I look back and go, well, thank God that happened, because I don't know if I'd been in my comfort zone still doing what I was doing, would I have done this? But it's terrifying. You've been there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm sure if you think back, there was you can probably remember vividly one pivotal moment where you asked that of yourself. And then from then in, that now becomes your, almost like a strategy, isn't it? To like better yourself and to improve upon that. Because I know for me, it was when I first started out at university. I did my first assignment, first nursing assignment, got it back, failed it.
Yeah.
I was like, what? How am I I failed my first assignment, and it's supposed to be, probably the most gentle, easier assignment to pass. You've failed your first assignment here.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do about it?
Do you take failure well?
I do. Yeah, I think I do now, actually.
Did you then?
I think I cried. I think I had a meltdown. But I think what was most important about that was I didn't think that I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
What I did was I asked for help.
Ah, yes.
I asked for help, and I had to work damn hard to get myself to a standard academically and to be able to write in a way that would help me get through university.
Yeah.
And I worked just so hard. And that's probably one of my proudest achievements as well, was getting my degree, but getting a first in that degree as well, because I went from failing my first assignment, and I put time and effort into that because I wanted to do well at university. And then to come back and you've got less than the pass mark, it's like, oh, wow, what am I going to do here? Yeah. And then just to again be brave enough just to ask for help, ask for support, and just get help from others to get where I wanted to get to. But that was quite a pivotal moment for me, in a sense that it just showed that even when something doesn't go well and you don't feel that you're quite good enough at the time, as long as you ask for help and you take action to move forward, then like anybody, it's possible for anybody. I believe that.
No, I totally agree. I think, it's great having loads of ideas and thoughts, but if you're not willing to put yourself out there and act on those things, actually your life's never really going to change. And what you'll end up finding is you're having the same conversations, the repeat conversations with your friends and your family and whatever, and nothing in your life's really changed. The only way for things to change is you have to make decisions and then you have to act on them. Yep. And you don't need everything mapped out. When you decided to move into the health and fitness industry, you didn't have this plan, I'm going to be England's strongest woman. That was actually a natural evolution and part of your journey, right? Yeah. It's about, but you made the decision, and it's a very, very hard decision to make. And I always say that is when your gut instinct comes in. Yeah. When you know something isn't right and you know that I just can't live like this anymore, that's normally the time to sort of quieten yourself. And there's a temptation. You'll go and want to speak to people, the typical people that you speak to that might go, oh, this isn't the right thing for you to do, and err with some caution and don't do that. And actually it's a solitary decision that you very, very much have to make for yourself. And when I have done that, and you're testament to this, oh my God, can your life move in spectacular directions, right? Your whole life can literally change. So penultimately, you are You know, your life is a summation of the choices that you make. And if your life isn't where you want it to be, then maybe on some level you're limiting yourself. Not because you can't do it, you can do anything. It's because you think you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Katie, it's been a bloody pleasure to have
Thanks
you
so
on.
much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I know that this will have helped so many people.
Good.
And we're going to put your contact information on site so that people can get in touch with you if they want this. You've got so much amazing content. Yeah, you're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Henna. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for being on the Rice Journey with me, Henna Riaz. This podcast has been brought to you by Marylebone Publishing. Please don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Rise with Henna.